we had entrepreneurs submit some pitch decks. After we give them templates to submit, right? So what entrepreneurs, instead of going to complete, not only a few of them, by the way, but instead of going to complete the whole template page by page and and such, they just dump the whole thing into ChatGPT and produce something and submit it. I've seen enough ChatGPT stuff, and obviously, unfortunately, didn't. Some of them, unfortunately, weren't ranked well when it comes to funding. Now, obviously, they were upset with it because they were instructed by experts. Look, please use ChatGPT. But I think there is a way to use ChatGPT responsibly and also as an assistant and not as the kind of thing that does the work for you. So I think perhaps can we talk around that, and so we are able to perhaps use it in the right way.
Good evening, panelists and the rest of the audience. My name is Ndashi Hafelandivayele. I am a founder of a multinational mining engineering tech startup. It's headquartered in Namibia with branches in Botswana and Mozambique. Thank you. I did follow all of you on LinkedIn, so I will come for you. My first question goes to Anton Lungamini. Anton, I do understand that Capricorn Group is the parent organization of Bank Windhoek and also Bank Gaborone. So we have a really huge issue at NABO Innovations with the data protection law. So we did mention, yes, the mindset, people can steal your ideas, but again, we do have to protect this data. So as a multinational engineering tech startup, how would you possibly advise us to protect our data at NABO Innovations, since Namibia only has a data bill at the moment? We don't have a law yet. That's the first question. The second question is for Maris, MTC Maris. You mentioned that you are able to do international transfers with MTC Maris. How is that possible? What is the procedure, and how are you collaborating with other financial institutions to conduct this international transfer, and how are you able to do it at a lower cost?
My question goes to back what Linda asked. I think was one of the first questions regarding data and so forth. So, and then Ms. Vivette over there brought up Starlink. So I'm going to touch a bit on Starlink, on what you said and what for Maris. Okay, so my question is, how do you guys actually have this data or this information out there for the public to access, especially for what Anton said, and then Ms. Vivette responded to regarding with the laws that you said. You said Starlink doesn't follow the Namibian laws. So how accessible is this information to the public actually? Like, I was one of those people that was really excited for Starlink. And then out of nowhere, we just said, no, it's not going to happen. But we never got feedback as to why exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. AI. Let's not use the word ChatGPT. Let's say AI. Because there are hundreds of good platforms out there. ChatGPT is just one of them that we use for text, refining text, generating text. Generative AI is not the most useful. If you start using it in your workflows, processes, to actually optimize how you do your things, it definitely helps a lot. I was showing Vivette earlier, like, there are so many good platforms. I'm integrating AI with WhatsApp to make my life easy. We're using it for clients. Just as an example, one of the retailers has started a competition where you can scan receipts on WhatsApp. And the AI in the back, we actually can now analyze if you bought that product, where did you buy it, when did you buy it. That data then gets analyzed, and we can now tell the retailer what shop is doing the most sale of that product. That's where AI needs to be used for. It needs to be used for productivity, not for just copy-paste. How many here you know Gamma? I do beta testing for Gamma, sitting here. Because I started using it so much, they actually came back to me. It's like, Nupesh, you have so many questions. Can you not help us just find bugs? Use it for the right purpose. Engage with it. AI is not smart. It's our data that has given it that brain. I said this at the MTC thing as well. When you go home today, just ask AI if it can generate a glass full of wine. Any AI you use, a full glass of wine to the top. Not one AI can do it because the data out there, nobody fills a glass full of wine. So it doesn't know a glass can be full of wine. And it's a real problem with AI. There are lots of problems like these. And we need to understand it's limited quite a lot if you actually start using it. Like you mentioned, programming. If I know programming, so when AI gives me a code, I can find bugs in it. I can say, yeah, but this is not wrong. If I don't know coding, I'm going to use it, copy paste, and start marketing it. That's not how it works. So we do need to use AI as a tool. And the last thing, everyone says AI will take your job. No, somebody who knows AI will take your job. So start learning that, start focusing on that more.
Maybe just to cap us, maybe 1 minute on answering, but also just to build on, I think Josiah's concern is also very valid as to say, if they're scrutinizing pitch decks and submissions from startups and you're seeing this similarity, right? So I think maybe Josiah, I think when Harvard started having this problem, I think what they did is they started teaching people how to use it better. So they created like an integrated class to say, how do you now use AI? So maybe it's time for the hubs to maybe think, it's just a suggestion, maybe an AI course. And then maybe how do you then use it better? Because it's more the enabling factor, right? So it's not that we're saying we don't want you to use it. We just don't want to kill your innovation. So let's give you the tools to better translate whatever it is that's in your head. And another thing is, I'm doing school also. There's also now where they say, at least just declare that you've used AI. So I think that it's the language, is that openness. So maybe if you present your pitch deck or you submit it, maybe there should be old style referencing, right? Create that AI. Did you use AI? It's an open thing, right? And if you say no and I really pick up, then I can also tell you this will be a criteria that will be held against you. So I think putting those measures in place, because I think it can be a brain drainer for you to be looking at pitch decks that are looking the same every time. So I think, how do we then just start enabling the startups to use better tools and a variety of tools? Yeah.
Just to add to that before I answer the remittance question, is there's a lot of hallucinations in AI, right? Junk in, junk out. And there's a lot of biases in AI because what? Majority of the coders that are busy working and the majority of the people inputting the data don't look like me and you, right? So just be careful when using it, and the critical thinking element really comes into play to make sure that you actually question it. Regarding the international remittance piece, it was my hope, remember? It's where I want to go in the future. But the conversations have been started with financial institutions, and how I see myself as Maurice is really a distribution channel for products that serve my markets. The product, I can put them in touch with the customer on Impalila Island or, again, Kalkran. I need to avoid that town next time. So that's really what we're trying to do. We're working with reputable financial services to bring on some of those propositions, and we're relying on the backbones that they've already built and the networks to see how we can bring those propositions on. But because of the fact that we don't need humans on the ground, our distribution cost is cheaper. We've got OPEX costs that we carry ourselves as well, which means that putting that product to our channel becomes cheaper, which I'm hoping in the future when we do launch the product will significantly decrease the fees that you have to pay for international remittance.
Thank you. Next question. And then maybe there was 2 more, I think, for Vivette as well. The Starlink, and then maybe just another town that you can consider. Maybe every month you can consider another town, but maybe Okakarara is also, Okakarara is also giving a nice, yeah.
Ochu is so cute.
Okay, let's move on, please. The next question.
All right, so I think my question was on data protection. So that's something, we don't always have to wait for government to make regulations regarding data protection, for example, because there are already established standards and best practices that are out there. And I think we need to get in that culture of, and that's something that developed countries have that culture of, is always trying to follow the best practices and standards. because it is an expensive and resource intensive exercise, and you get in that habit of cutting corners. Because I always say, like, these standards are like insurance. It's like when things are going well, then you can survive without them. But the day that you get hacked, and then you start now regretting. You start saying, I should have, I could have, but the damage is done. So I don't think that we need to wait for a data protection bill to actually just have those best practices in place. Because even for us, my colleague there, that's my colleague, Richard, we don't have, there's no law saying that you should develop software like this, or you should make an architecture like this. We don't even have an engineering society. But we always look at what is Microsoft saying, what is IEEE saying, what is ACM saying, what are the best practices? Because that's what will keep us safe, and what will also mature our tech space.
You are indeed the problem solver, because I think you've just solved so many problems by just saying adhere to the highest standards that are already out there in the world. We do not have to wait for bills and acts. And we like to say that and sing that. I think if we adhere to these standards, they're already out there, then we are within a safe space.
The AU also has some really good stuff on data protection and all of that. So, and with Africa coming down the line, they'll probably use that with you having a couple of stuff. So, Starlink. What exactly, so you want me to answer in terms of why I'm opposed to Starlink? But why the government or didn't, okay.
Before you go down that road, please, the license was just not approved. They are coming.
So the license wasn't approved because he wants 100% ownership, one of the reasons. And so what we said, and when I say we, the Namibia Internet Governance Forum said to one of the deputy ministers was, if they make an exception to the 100% owned rule, with the fact that we have got hordes of international companies that are going to come in, that is a huge implication for Namibian ownership and Namibian businesses. So just by the virtue of the fact that he doesn't want to do that is problematic. And we are already seeing problems with it in Zambia, wherever Starlink is in Africa. They let them in and then they're like, but there's problems here. Number one. Number two, the biggest, so that's on the government aspect. It's the 100%. The license hasn't been approved. We are going to fight that license being approved with everything that we have, not only because he wants to exempt the data, the 100% owned, foreign owned law, but we're talking about data sovereignty. Data has been flowing around and all of that. We're talking about data sovereignty. What people don't know is that it's satellites in space. Fantastic. Paratus has a thing where they do synchronous learning, and the school that they did synchronous learning to improved from 100 and something in Namibia to the top 20. And we're talking about some school in, I don't know, Okakarara somewhere. I can't remember the name. This was a couple of years ago now. So we're not opposed to that kind of technology. It has so many great uses. Other than the fact that Starlink is exorbitantly expensive. It was part funded by the Department of Defense in the States. So this is where the data sovereignty thing comes in. Let's not even look at the fact that it was funded by the Department of Defense. When you have anyone like Internet Protocol, so MTC, are sitting with more data than just the data. They're sitting with the fact that I don't have my location services turned off. If MTC wanted to right now, because we aren't really protected, we've got privacy laws that will protect us and stuff like that, but let's just say, for an example, there's a bad actor in MTC, they don't like me, they want to stalk me, they can access my location at all times. They can look at past patterns of my location and all of that. Now you want a foreign entity to have that kind of access to us here in Namibia. So there's three reasons why we will fight Starlink and why Starlink really shouldn't come. It's not affordable. Only like people like ourselves and tourists can afford Starlink at the moment. So what is the point of giving 100% ownership, opening us up to a precedent that can be very tricky, to something that doesn't serve most of the Namibian population, and again, our data sovereignty?
Thank you so much, Vivette. And Nupresh wants to jump in, but I also want to jump in quickly. I want to be the vegan in the room, right? So I'm going to say this. We have the most beautiful skies ever. And nobody thinks sunsets, but I'm talking about just the stars alone. People come there, come to Namibia just to come and gaze. And that's another untapped startup ecosystem that we haven't even looked at, right? And that's just the space side. If he comes and pollutes, I'm just saying also, I want to be the vegan in the room. Then we are now competing. It's now the satellites and our stars, and what are you really seeing, and is it dimming it? And yeah, so I just want to be the vegan in the room for that one. Yeah.
No, but my question is, would you be okay with the Chinese company coming in and you giving all the data to China?
The conversation
Would
is
you be
getting
okay-
heated.
Would you be okay with the Chinese company coming in that you don't know and you're giving them the data? No, I'm just
No.
asking.
I think, no, Presh?
Yeah.
Let's just quickly, I think it's becoming a fireside chat now. It's not anymore a panel discussion. So I'm just quickly going to take my rights back. I think for you, you just wanted to understand, where do a Namibian just get information that is reliable to say that if someone says no, there's no Starlink coming in. No, we're not going to lay a fiber cable here because there's a water pipe. Where is that information housed? And it comes back to that information hub, right? That knowledge hub. And I think information is key. And I think that's all you want. And you want reputable information. You don't want to go on social media and see all of the 100 Instagram comments that are being made, and now you don't know what is the reality versus someone just giving their opinion. I think that was your question. And I think it's important for us when something like that, because it's a global thing, if such an announcement is made, I think it goes back to MICT. They need to take it seriously to say that this is why we said no. You need to have a public informative session. Why are we doing this? It's consumer protection, it's data protection, it's all of these things. And I think you have the right to know that information. And I think that's the question.
But quickly on that, the issue is not just MICT, but there is no structure of information flow in the government.
Yeah.
We've got 235 Facebook pages from the government, ministries, departments, directorates, state-owned enterprises, regional places, regional offices. NIPDB has info. Each state-owned enterprise has info. How do we kind of make sense of all of that? And that needs to be kind of streamlined.
Yeah.
So I'm Marcelo Groenewald and I'm a AI specialist. I built AI powered. Yeah, from Oriental. Yes, please. But the question I had is actually for Kayamba and Anton. We spoke a lot about bridging the digital gap and building all the infrastructures to enable our Namibians to be able to get access to the digital information, to bridge that information gap that we as Namibians have from smaller towns such as Mariental all the way to Okakarara, as you guys said. But what the key is, what I think also that we are missing is, even though we build that infrastructure, how will we go about to show our Namibians the need to adopt this in our daily lives? Because we go about, as human beings, we function on needs. So we prioritize based on our needs, not just wants. So how will we go about bridging that information gap and showing the Namibian people, our economy, that this is what's needed now? And in order for us to grow and scale and make that switch to becoming a technological company and also scale, that we need to adopt this information, that we need to adopt these technologies. How will we go about bridging that gap and showing them the need for adopting these AI technologies, not just in their businesses, but in their daily lives, because it is becoming a everyday need so that they can become more affluent in whatever niche that they are.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erastus. I am a fellow software engineer as well. I used to work with Anton. I am also well versed in the financial space. I currently work for Emirates. So my question is to, I think, everyone that has spoken about Starlink. So yeah, no. So I am a software engineer and an part-time entrepreneur as well. So I own a couple of digital businesses, and they highly depend on the internet. My job as well, my primary job, highly 100% depends on there being internet because I work remotely, right? And I think there's this illusion of, because you've mentioned that Starlink is very expensive, right? I think there's also this illusion of our local providers, sorry, not MTC, of having cheap internet. And it is not cheap. It is really not cheap. It is not. So I'm just thinking, you said, open up Starlink. They have access to a lot of information. They can find you anytime. We have entities that do not belong to this continent even, that have so much information. Google, for example, can find you anytime. They have this information for free. So giving this information to Starlink in exchange for internet, I think is a small price to pay. I'm right. So Google can find you, and that's for free. I mean, I would give, Starlink my location for internet, right? What is the implication that we are already not going through? I mean, Google can find us. Whoever it is can find us. If the argument is we are giving data, I mean, if the data is so much protected, your identity, whatever it is that you have sensitive data, by all means, do not use Starlink, right? Do not use it. But for me, the average person, one of my businesses is a reviews platform, right? A reviews platform gives you the voice to air your views about any organizations. It's called Yani Abraham. About any organization, you have a bad experience at a restaurant, you give your review. You had a good experience, you give your review. Now, you are maybe familiar with Hello Peter. It operates in South Africa. Cool. So people have complained about some of our internet providers to South Africa. They didn't have a review platform. So they went and complained about how expensive our data, our internet is, right? So the overall feeling of the internet, it's expensive. I felt it because I highly depend on it. Starlink would be a benefit for me. If the argument is our data is going and all that, I think the benefit outweighs the, yes.
Thank you so much. I actually moved closer strategically. So I was at the back. So the question is two questions. First one is to Mr. Ilunga. Thank you so much for being here. The first question is also, I wanted to be in the pictures. So I'm asking questions. Yeah, so personal branding. Yeah, so Mr. Ilunga, the first question is, what are the other remaining barriers to access bridging the gap in digital literacy? Because you mentioned one. I also heard some from Mr. Anton. He said culture is one of them as well. I was taking notes on that. First question is, what are the remaining barriers to access to digital literacy? Second question is, I think Mr. Soni or anyone else, if you want to answer this next question. The question is, how soon can DeFi, decentralized finance, be commonplace in Namibia? Just to explain what it is, it's a decentralized protocol, which is where we're going. Just the way we used to first trade with seeds, and then the economy was determined on having things physically. There, the seeds, bartering. Then we moved now, money was created, and then banks. From money, then brokers and banks came. So now we're going to be moving to decentralized finance, DeFi, whether we want to or not. We don't have a choice. So my question is, when are we? How soon will that be commonplace in Namibia? I just wanted to find out. I think you guys might have an idea. Yeah, that's the second question. Thank you very much. Okay. I also didn't introduce myself. My name is Maguno Kathindi. I'm Chief Operating Officer of Ben Kathindi Architects, first architectural firm in northern Namibia. And also, I'm running the Institute of Property Valuers Namibia. I'm the CEO there. So, and I'm also a YouTuber. King Mawuno, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. All right.
Thank you for coming all the way from Marintel. But I think to answer your question quickly from my side, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, right? You just being in Marintel and the difference what's happening in Marintel and Gibeon, they alone. So I think those are the on-the-ground interventions that need to take place. You need to understand what does Marintel need, and you need to adopt and you need to then be agile to Marintel. So when we talk about contextualize and localize things, we can't be expecting what's happening in Windhoek should also happen in. So whatever that infrastructure that we're applying across the country, yes, but then the adoption then is it needs to be tailored to how Marintel. Are we more in the second, third, fourth industrial revolution type of thing? And that's where we start applying things in that contextualized way. The DeFi one, I think DeFi, the Virtual Asset Act is there. It's in place. You need to embrace it. The sandbox is there. Bank of Namibia has it active. Create it, embrace it, and go and run with it.
So yeah, on DeFi, like sandboxes are there, NAMFISA, Bank of Namibia. Come up with something, at least you can test it out. But in bigger scale of things, Namibia is just too small. We still primarily depend on USSD, which is until we have that is kind of gone away, we can look at the future. Right now, we need to look in as much as we want to bring in the new tech. And in terms of information, I always tell one thing about information. There's so much out there. If you want it, you'll find it. But we have this tendency to join every WhatsApp group we can. Cut it out, leave the groups that are not benefiting you. Focus on the ones that teach you, and you will see a lot more growth immediately. There are lots of distractions, and that's unfortunately with school kids up to youth. Now, the problem is information is everywhere. We just not be able to identify the useful information that can help you grow. We just TikTok feeds, curate your information, and you will see it'll help.
Just to add to that, and if you don't know where you're going, right, every distraction looks like an opportunity. So you really need to know what it is that you're trying to figure out and hone in where you're going. To answer the question of the Mariental Challenge and the adoption of technologies rapidly, I think my Anton over here said it quite nicely, right? Tech is divided into many fields. When we say tech, we're talking about user experience, we're talking about coders, developers, solution architects. But the one, and for me, is the favorite part about tech and the most underrated is behavioral science and behavioral economics. So when I build a product, before I even build a product, what do I do? For example, Maris, and what I'm doing is I have a workshop with my target market, and I want to know where are they using cash from when they wake up at 4 o'clock on Monday until they go to bed on Sunday at 10 o'clock. And by understanding that ecosystem, I then know who to target in order to build my value proposition that will speak to their needs. There's another lens to look at when it comes to behavioral science is when you are building those capabilities, why do I put the click there? Why do I do that there? Because that leads to faster conversion, because it's easier to do that and tap next. So there's two ways to use behavioral science in order to pick up your adoption, right? On the question of data, again, shout out to Maris. We, at the moment, have the cheapest data package. So for 68 Namibian dollars, you can get 10.5 gigs of data for 7 days. You don't know that, did you? You did. We need to market it more. Your needs are more. Eh? 10 gigs. 10 gigs.
Okay. 10 gigs for 7
How much is
For 7 days. How much is Starlink? We said one of the cheapest. So if you compare one of the cheapest. Okay, I'll take it. 10 point. No, but that's for 7 days, right? We've got options of 14 days. We have option of a month.
Let's compare this.
Look, I hear you. I hear you. But we're comparing it to Starlink, right? If the guy who's asking the question is saying it, that's what I'm saying. So deep breath. I hear your concern. But if you compare it to the cost of Starlink, you could basically get 40 gigs in a month for less than $300. I think that's really competitive. I think 40 gigs is enough to do some of the basic things like enter different markets, do research, understand certain topics, right? So that's the one thing that I really wanted to give. And I think our colleague, so there is access to some cheaper packages. I think the concern that you have is how widely available is that access, especially if your business is in remote locations. And that is something that we as MTC, well, my big brother, is working really, really hard in making sure that there is one, network coverage across the country, and two, network coverage that actually enables actually technology as well. Yeah.
All right. So to add to the answer on adoption. So my mother is a retired teacher. So during COVID, I remember the government was pushing online learning, and she was a primary school teacher, and one of the things that they identified is that even if you give this child a tablet, the parents also do not have that literacy to use it. So unfortunately, the kids who are in rural areas or informal settlements whose parents didn't also have that access to education or advanced education, they just get left behind. So one of the things that she pointed out is that this type of knowledge or teaching should be part of the curriculum and start from a young age. I mean, in our generation, I was at a point where I'm teaching my mother how to use Outlook or WhatsApp. So it's because I got that knowledge and I could transfer it to my parents. And also with data protection, the scamming, and our senior citizens are a big target for that. It's up to us. If we are educated, we can also protect those and educate them as well. So I think a very key thing that I think is never looked at is, because we're always targeting the adults, but it should be part of the curriculum, because the internet and data is part of our lives, whether we like it or not. Whether you're in the remote areas, it affects you, whether you engage with it or not. So I think we should adopt that thing of it should be part of the curriculum. The Chinese are, as in the keynote, they're mandatory, they're requiring AI to be taught in schools. So that should tell you something.
Okay, rapid fire. Adaptation. Our friend back there, Brad, did a wonderful LinkedIn post the other day that talks about how UX, the user experience, and where you press a button is actually one of the critical aspects to digital literacy. Same with AI. The other thing that we don't talk about is, and this doesn't necessarily just translate into this conversation, it's cross-cutting, is Rukungwali and all of our languages is just not part of the tech world at all, because we don't have that data. How much easier would it be from somebody in Ruakana to understand technology if it was in their own language? I know that you are the pitch decks. They're all ChatGPT generated. English is not our first language for most of us in this room. So a lot of people will use that because they aren't confident in their own language, or they aren't confident in their own ability to express themselves. So we have to start looking at, and this is something that's debated in education a lot as well. Should we be teaching people in their own language? I'm absolutely for that. Because people are like, oh, that's not practical. The French don't teach their kids in English. The Germans don't. The Dutch don't. So what kind? So that's with the adaptation. With the DeFi question, with the DeFi question, that is a whole debate. And again, I would recommend my colleague over there, Brad, because DeFi and the control that we have, that people or the financial industries will have with regards to virtual assets, that's another quagmire. Getting back to Starlink, my favorite, but he ran out. Oh, there he is. Okay. I get your argument, my guy, because we give our data away all the time. From the minute we open our eyes till we sleep, we give our data away. When is it going to stop? Because it's just another extractive industry in Africa. It's just, so can we build our own table? I will give you my data, because I will give you my data that I deem that if you build a Facebook, I will go and support you on Facebook, because we don't see all of these social media platforms, all of these technologies. It's literally, there's a thing called the Californian, what is that word? You should know this. Nonetheless, most of technology is developed by the West. It's not developed by people, like my colleague said, by you and me and stuff like that. It's not for us. It's not fit for purpose. So at some stage, we need to say, we need to build our own table. And that's why I'm like, why we have Paratus, we have Telkom, we have MTC. They just need to better their services, and then Starlink is null and void. Thank you.
I think before we got to the last one, just to add to that, right? It's not just about the data conversation. I think that's a misconception. It's a number of factors that really raise the red flag in Starlink, right? One is the US, for me, is the US Defense Force being a partner in that. What happens to that? What are the future implications? I've watched too many Terminator movies, right? I think the second, and I think the name was even similar. What was the name? Star something. So I think that's another thing. The other thing as well is, why don't you want to adhere to the regulations of the country? How do we manage that in the future? South Africa's having the same fight. He doesn't want to adhere to our BEE rules. Why? You got to ask yourself why. It's not just about ownership. It's about control. And what are the outcomes of even having that 100% control over your data, over your networks, over your movements? And being a government contractor, I'm very nervous.
Oh, yes.
So I think, I don't know if there are any more questions, but what we gathered here is that this conversation needs to happen more. And it shouldn't just be happening in Windhoek. You shouldn't be traveling all the way from Mariental to get this information. And this is what we're saying. So I think MTC Maurice, you are anyway doing your campaign. Bring us along. Bring NABAN along. Let it be a side conversation. Let's have this debate. Let's go to the regions. Let's talk about this. I think it can happen. It's the knowledge hub on the go, right? I think take people along and share their stories. So I think this was really enlightening. I think we from the panel we've obviously been challenged in our thought. And I think we also brainstorm as we go. So thank you so much. I think there's going to be networking and there's going to be more Q&A sessions. I also just want to say thank you to the panel. It was fire. It was a lot of passion, and I've learned from everybody. But I think I'm not doing the closing remarks. So I just want to say thank you.